Okay guys, hello, and today we're going to talk about finding unit rates, okay? So a unit rate, it's very similar to this irregular rate that we talked about earlier. It's an action that's happening over a period of time, but it's when the second quantity is in comparison is only one unit. So a unit rate is basically when what we need to do is we need to get our denominator, our period of time, to 1 to 1. Okay, and that's it. It's the same thing as a rate, but with a denominator of 1. Okay, so for example, let's look at this problem right here. During exercise, Sonia's heart beats 675 times in 5 minutes. How many times does it beat per minute? So I'm going to set this up like I would set up a regular, like we were setting up rates before. Okay, and I want to set this up kind of as a fraction. Okay, I want to do my action over my period of time. So I have 675 beats over 5 minutes. So that's the rate at which Sonia's heart is beating. Okay, but what I want to do now is I am going to convert this so I have a denominator of 1. Okay, so I want to get this 5 and change it into a 1. The way that we're going to do that is actually pretty simple. We're just going to divide by the denominator. Okay, so we're going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the denominator, and that will get it to 1. Okay, so it's kind of like we're just reducing it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So if I have 5 in the denominator, I'm just going to divide the denominator by 5. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. This is like with all fractions, right? Whenever we're reducing, we have to do the exact same operation. Okay, so I'm dividing them both by 5. Okay. Now when I do that, I know that I'm going to have a denominator of 1. That's the whole reason why we divided by 5. Okay? And now I got to figure out what my heartbeats are. So let's just go over here real quick. It's good to practice our division. 675 divided by 5. 5 goes into 6 one time. Subtract 5. I'm left with 1. Bring down my 7. Goes into 17 3 times. Uh-oh, I might run out a little bit of room here. Oh, I think we'll be good. 2 remaining. Bring down my last 5. 5 goes into 25 5 times. And because I don't have any room, we'll just stop right there. I will not have a remainder. So it is 135. So now what I just figured out the unit rate of how many times Sonia hearts beats per 1 minute. And the unit rate would be 135 beats per 1 minute. Okay, and that would be my final answer. Okay, so let's kind of scroll down here and let's look at a new problem. Okay, so let's look at, I got about 3 examples for you guys so we can make sure we've got a good handle on this. While remodeling his kitchen, Arthur paints the cabinets. He estimates he paints 30 square feet every half hour. How many square feet does Arthur paint in 1 hour? So again, we're trying to find a unit rate because we're trying to figure out how much he paints in 1 hour. Okay, the rate that we have now works with a half hour. So let's set this up like we did again, action over a period of time. Okay, so 30 square feet every half hour. So I'm going to put 30 in my numerator. 30 square feet every half hour. Okay. Now what I need to do is essentially what I'm doing is I'm going to divide both of these by the denominator. Okay, because when I do that, if I divide by my denominator, just like what we did before, we want to get a denominator of 1. And if I divide 1/2 by 1/2, I am going to get 1. Because if we look, I have 1/2 divided by 1/2. That equals 1/2 times 2 over 1, which is 2 over 2, which is just 1. So that's what we're trying to do, right? So I am going to be dividing 30 by 1/2. So the process is the same. Okay? So really, in the end, what you're actually doing is you're always just going to end up dividing the numerator by the denominator. Okay? So let's do that. So I have 30 divided by 1/2. I'm going back to memorize my dividing fractions rules. I remember I have to keep, change, and flip. Okay, so I'm going to keep 30. I'm going to change my division to multiplication, and I'm going to flip my second fraction. Okay, so I really have 30 times 2 over 1, which is actually just 30 times 2, and that is equal to 60. So what we just figured out is that Arthur is going to paint his cabinets. He's going to paint 60 square feet per 1 hour. Okay, 60 square feet per 1 hour. Okay. Okay, so let's look at another example down here. Can I change a little bit up? Can change a little bit more again. But we're still going to set up the exact same way. So let's look at this. A container of water is leaking. Okay, it is leaking at a rate of 2/3 a gallon every 1/4 hour. How many gallons of water is leaking per hour? Okay, so again, let's set it up over as an action over a period of time. 2/3 gallons every 1/4 hours. Okay. This looks like, hopefully it looks like the lesson that we just did a couple days ago, and this should look like complex fractions, okay? So what we're going to do is we're just going to solve this complex fraction, because really all we need to do to find the unit rate is take our numerator and divide it by our denominator. Okay, once we do that, we're going to figure out how many gallons per 1 hour. Okay, so what we can do is we can just reset this up as 2/3 divided by 1/4. Okay, we're really, for unit rates, we're just solving these complex fractions like we've done before. Okay, so we're going to use the rules of keep, change, flip. Okay, so I'm going to keep it as 2/3, change my division to multiplication, and multiply by 4 over 1. Okay, I'm going to look to see if I can cross reduce. 3 and 4 do not share any common factors. 2 and 1, I can't cross-reduce that just because 1 is in its simplest form. So let's go ahead and just multiply straight across. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. And that's it. So it would go 8/3 gallons per 1 hour. Okay. We could also convert the 8/3 gallons into a mixed number, just so we have a better idea of exactly what the number really is. And if we did that, it would be 2 2/3 gallons per 1 hour. Okay? All right, and I do have one more example, and this lesson will be all done. Okay. Dennis runs 8.5 miles in 1 1/3 hours. Find the unit rate. Now I have mixed numbers. Okay? The process does not change. I'm still going to put my action over my period of time. So I'm still going to start off with 8 1/2 of my numerator, miles, over 1 1/3 hours in my denominator. But because I have mixed numbers, we can't really divide, because eventually we're going to have to divide, right? And we can't really divide with mixed numbers. So all we have to do is we need to change our mixed numbers into improper fractions. Okay? So if I have 8.5, that's going to be the same as 8 times 2 plus 1. So 8 times 2 is 16 plus 1 is 17. And my denominator does not change. So 1 1/3. Okay. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So that becomes 4 over 3. So now what I really have is I have 17 over 2 over 4 over 3. Remember, we're trying to get a denominator of 1, so we're just going to divide 17 halves divided by 4 over 3. Okay. We're just going to solve this complex fraction. So I have 17 over 2 divided by 4 over 3. Okay. Keep, change, flip. So that's going to change to 17 over 2 times 3 over 4. And now I can see if I can cross-reduce. Look at 2 and 3 and see if they share a common factor, which they do not. 17 and 4 also do not. So I'm good just to multiply straight across. Okay. And when I do my multiplication, 17 times 3 is 51. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so the answer would be 51 over 8. 51 over 8 miles per hour. But I do want to convert this to a mixed number just so, again, it makes more sense, especially because my original problem had mixed numbers in it. So 51 over 8 is, let's actually go over this one. 51 divided by 8. 8 goes into 51 6 times. Subtract 48. You're left with 3 as your remainder, so it becomes 6 3/8 miles per hour. Okay? Okay, great job, you guys, and thank you for paying attention and listening.